Hi, the project title for our data visualization course is Data Analysis for Change Control Process. The team members are Rohit, Unni, Saurabh, Sanjay, and Jayesh. Let me get started. Let me define the change control process. Change control process is set in place to govern the changes made in the system for all regulated processes. This is specifically for the industry that we are working in, and the examples would be manufacturing processes, packaging processes, and inspection processes. All these processes are auditable by US FDA, so that makes them regulated processes. And since then, the change control process is also auditable. Change control process is not required for non-regulated processes like leave approval process and recruitment processes, etc. Just to give you the size of this whole context, there are around 15,000 change control requests that are raised in 1 year. Now, this tells us about the flow diagram of a typical change control process. It starts with an initiator who initiates the change control process. Then it goes to the quality assurance department who, after analyzing this change control process in detail, assigns the change control process for review and approval to see cross-functional team members. The cross-functional team members can range from 1 to n. I would say typically it's range from 1 to 20. Then after the review and approval by the change across functional teams, it goes to safety team for their approval, and then again come back to the quality assurance team. There's a corrective and preventive action that is triggered after the approval from quality assurance, which is after completion. It goes to the head of department of the initiator for review and approval, and then finally the kappa and its closure by the quality assurance team. And just to give you a context, all of these activities happen on SAP portal. Uh, we went and talked to a few of our customers and on our plants, and so typically they said that it takes a month for to approve a simple change control request, which told us that the lead time analysis has to be done properly. Some people also think that the change control process is very complicated, and people also said that it wastes a lot of their time for follow up on the change control approvals. Because as if you understand in the regulated processes, if a change control is not approved, you cannot go ahead with that process. Okay, so the scope of the project that we decided was that we do data analysis for 1 year data, that was 2013, to figure out the areas for focused improvement. What is not in the scope of this project is a simplified change control process. Obviously, that is the phase two which we are working on now, of the simplified to the whole overall change control process. The data sources company R3 system, SAP system. Okay, so let me just take you straight ahead to our dashboard. We have taken around 12,000 approved change control requests in the last year. Okay. So as you see over here, this is the first dashboard. We have two bubble charts and one column chart. And the first bubble chart, we can see the size is by the number of notifications issued by a change control type. So I have removed the actual name of the change control type and the name of the plants specifically and the departments for confidentiality issue. So if we see that, yeah, in the top in 2013, top 5 changes control request account for 60% of the total. So we know that, yeah, these are change number 46, 5, 2, 1, and 4 are the change control types which we should focus on in detail. In 2013, 5 plants accounted for 58% of the change control request, again by size. Now here in this dashboard, if I click on change control type 1, it tells me which are the plants on which this change control type 1 has the most impact. Also, it tells me which is the department. So here we see the department number 1 in year 2013, 79,832 man hours were devoted for approval of the change control type 1. Similar analysis can be done for change control type 5 and change control type 2. So this dashboard gives us a very broad overview as to which change control type has to be focused, accordingly which plant needs to be focused onto, and then which are the departments which need special focus, so that to make sure that we are doing a focus improvement activity. Similar we can be done for if we see for formulations plant 3. So which are the type of if we want to have a focused activity on reducing the change controls at formulations plant 3, Then change control type 6, 46, 5, 52, 60 and 1 would be the areas of focus. And again, department number 24, department number 1 are the top two which are heavily loaded in formulations plant 3 with the change control types of these kind. So this is the first dashboard which gives us a very broad overview onto the focus points of our analysis. Let me get back to this. So this was what we saw as the overall flow diagram. So for our further analysis, what we did was we calculated the time of start of a change control request and the end we called it as lead time. And then we also calculated the number of steps. Say for example, here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So I would say the complexity of this particular change control is 10. Number of steps, if you see first step and last step, number of steps, so we assigned these two variables and then we again made our dashboard, which is our final analysis dashboard. Here we see the change type wise analysis, plant wise analysis, and we also have the trend spark lines for the date of closure. Let me just take you through this. The x-axis is the average lead time and the y-axis is the average complexity. So here all the change types are mapped. If we see that on an average it takes 65.8 days for a change control to be approved, and on an average around 10 steps, it means around 10 people are involved in approving that change control type. Similarly for plant wise analysis, we see that it takes around 60.4 and around 9.77. The good point of this analysis is that the size of the bubble is the number of notifications in that particular change type. So if I click on this, correspondingly graph changes and we can see that formulations 1 in somewhere in the mid of the year, there was a rise in the closure of analysis of change control type 5. Similarly, if we do this analysis for change control type 2, we get similar trends for chemical plant number 6. And we also see that the highest is for chemical plant number 6. So if we now want to do a focused analysis that we want to reduce the lead time of the whole process, we see that chemical plant number 3 has the maximum lead time. So reduction in this area would be very fruitful. If you want to reduce the overall count, then change type 1, change type 5 and change type 2 would be helpful for us, and then we can deep dive onto each and every change type and see which are the plants that are in this zone which is high on the lead time and also high on the complexity, so that reducing them makes more sense. So this dashboard actually, again we have to say, if I want to do a focused analysis on only on say plant formulations plant 3, so this gives me the trend of the date of closure of all the change controls in that year, and these are the type distribution on our axis on the first dashboard. So overall this dashboard gives us another lead and helps us identify the trend and also which are the change types which are onto the higher side, and this helps us a lot in doing the focus discussion now. So just to conclude on what we discussed, so with the help of this analysis, we can now do a focused area of improvement. We know the focused area of improvement have been identified to reduce the lead time and complexity. If say, as we showed at the display on our dashboard, that is very much evident. We can now do root cause analysis as to why a specific department is overloaded with work. As we saw in the first dashboard, that department 1 and department 24 are the ones which are heavily loaded in certain combinations. Department 1 being the most. So we can do now a deep dive onto that as to why is that department being the one with such an overload of work. And we can also do a focus on manufacturing units with niche special attention. As we saw on our dashboard number 2 and dashboard number 1 both ways, we can now do a focus attention work. And now we have a benchmark the process. Say we have an average lead time of around 2 months and an average complexity scale of around 10. So we have now benchmarked the process for future improvements and they can be tracked back with quantifiable benefits. So this was all that we did for our project. Thank you very much.